So without wasting any time, let's get into it. I don't know why I just did that like we're actually going. Okay, I'm wasting time. Studienkolleg is actually a preparation course mainly for international students. There are a few exceptions where actually Germans attend it too, but it's mainly for international students, and it's for those students who have a high school diploma that's not recognized here in Germany. By not recognized, I mean that it's not up to par with the German high school diploma, which is called Abitur. This is mainly because the German Abitur can last up to 13 years. So in order for you to have the same level as the German students, you have to take this preparation course. So in my last video, I talked about the 3 categories that you may be a part of if you're coming here to Germany hoping to get a bachelor's degree. In that video, I actually explained why this preparation course, Studienkolleg, is the best choice for any category. I'll leave an annotation in the corner. This preparation course normally lasts 1 year, so 2 semesters, but there are a few that are only 6 months, so just 1 semester. So the 2 public Studienkollegs that I know that only last 6 months, so 1 semester, are Kaiserslautern and Mainz. They're both in the west and they're actually pretty close to each other, like I think only an hour away or maybe 2. I actually went to the one in Kaiserslautern. I only found this out when I actually got there. Statistically, I think the city is like 40 or like 50% Americans because there's an American military base there, Ramstein. So if you're generally worried about moving to a new country and like the whole culture shock and whatnot, then I'd say it's a pretty good city to move to. So yeah, that's a bonus feature that can be good for you, or maybe even bad because you know you're trying to learn German as fast as possible. But yeah, every now and then you can like, you know, speak English with those Americans. So I guess it's a good mix overall. Kaiserslautern is also a smaller city compared to like Berlin or Munich. Smaller cities do have their advantages, but it all comes down to personal preference in the end. Also because it's a small city, the rent is going to be generally cheaper compared to like the big cities. So you get this international environment in a smaller city with cheaper rent, and Studienkolleg only lasts 6 months there. Even if you want to live in a big city, I'd say staying there 6 months won't hurt you, and it's actually only 40 to 50 kilometers away from France, so you can go there when you have time. I should be getting a commission for this, like I'm plugging way too much, but seriously, Kaiserslautern is a good choice. So if you want me to make a video of my experience there, like with Studienkolleg and just living there in general, then I'll gladly do so. I briefly mentioned this in my previous video, saying that public ones are way better, and here's why. So if you go to a private Studienkolleg, you're basically taught by a private institute, like a third party, and then when it's time for you to actually take the exam, it's most likely going to be in a public university. So this private institute doesn't know exactly what's going to be tested on the exam. They basically go off of the topics that the uni has sent them or off of past papers. Whereas in the public Studienkolleg, your teacher is actually writing your exams. The second reason is that private Studienkollegs are more expensive. And by more expensive, I mean it can be like 10 times as much. So public ones are generally between like 100... So public ones are generally between 100 euros and like 300 euros a semester, whereas the private ones can range from like 2,000 to like 5,000. Even more actually. Recently I've seen one that's like 12,000 for a whole year. So it's like crazy amount of money just for 1 year of like Studienkolleg. Like you're in Germany, you're not in the US, you're not supposed to pay that much. And I guess these private institutions usually like to convince you by saying it might be expensive now, but then you're 3-4 years doing your bachelor's, that's gonna be cheap. But trust me, if you have the chance, just go to a public one. Now clearly, because the public ones have more advantages, they require a higher standard. So for the public ones, you usually need a B2 certificate, whereas for the private ones, it's usually a B1. Now, you might even get away with an A2 because, you know, it's a private organization and they're trying to make money. So if you have no choice but to go to a private one, as I said in my previous video, it's not the end of the world. I just recommend that you talk to a few people that have already gone through it, or maybe look at reviews, because things can be a bit fishy in private Studienkollegs. Like sometimes you're not learning everything you need, or sometimes they don't even know what exactly you have to learn. Just make sure that it's reliable and that you won't have any problems. So the courses that are offered and available are different in every Studienkolleg. If you want to know what courses are offered in each Studienkolleg, then just go to this website called studienkollegs.de I'll leave a link in the description. You'll find most of the Studienkollegs on this website, and if you have no choice but to go to a private one, because let's say like you don't have a B2 just yet, then I suggest picking one from this list, because the private ones on this list are more reliable than other ones. And here next to every Studienkolleg you can actually see if it's public or private. I know there are other words too as well, but basically if it doesn't say private, then it's most likely public. So like FH, Uni, Staatlich, Staatlich genehmigt, Staatlich anerkannt, all of those are public, and where it says privat, then obviously it's private. And then directly next to it you can see what courses are offered, whether it's like T, W, M, G or S. I'll let you know what those mean in a second. And the S has just a language exam, so even if you don't need Studienkolleg, you can go study at the Studienkolleg and only take German. But as I said, I recommend Studienkolleg for everyone. Even if you don't need it to get into uni, I still think it will help you out a lot. So in general, you have 5 types of courses. 3 are pretty popular, and then 2 are like a bit more rare and even harder to find, simply because there isn't too much demand for them, because they're mainly German heavy. So those are like language majors, literature, social sciences, that kind of thing. So number 1 is the take course. This is for like the technical and engineering majors, and it's actually the most popular one because, you know, Germany is known for all its creations in engineering. The second is WEKOS, which stands for Wirtschaft. Now Wirtschaft has 13 meanings in English, but it's basically for like economics and business majors, but they even have like computer science in there as a subject. The M course is Medizin, as you guessed, medicine. So this one is for all the med students. And then as I mentioned, the other 2 that are a bit less popular are the G and S course. The G stands for Geisteswissenschaften. I know, awesome word. Get used to those long words in German. It's basically for humanities and arts. And the S, I think it stands for Sprachen, which is basically languages. So if you're going into a language major, that's probably the one for you. When you apply to Studienkolleg and before they accept you for you to enroll, you have an entry test, which is called the Aufnahmeprüfung. This is basically an entry test which usually consists of math and German. Now this isn't like a bachelor thesis, they're not that hard, but then again I'm not saying don't study for them. I definitely think you should, because they're not that easy as well. The German is around the B2 level for public ones, for the private ones usually B1. And so you usually have like an hour for German and then an hour for math. My best advice is look at past papers, because every Studienkolleg has different focus points. So for example, in some Studienkollegs you have like complex numbers and other ones you don't. Some focus more on graphing, some focus more on like matrices. So just look at past papers and then you'll have a good idea of what's gonna come. In general, you just have to pass to get enrolled, so like above a 60%, sometimes 70%, depends how many people apply, because if there are more people, then they have to sort out like the best ones. So just do your best. Now the grading system, in Germany the best mark is a 1 and the worst one is a 5. So in the Studienkolleg, no matter what course you pick, you usually have 5 subjects, and at the end of it you have the FSP, the Feststellungsprüfung. So out of every subject you're gonna have a grade from 5 to 1. Then they're gonna take the average of all those subjects, the Durchschnittsnote, which is your total average, and that combined with your high school diploma from your country will be the qualifications you need to get into uni. The universities don't tell you how much they value your high school diploma and the FSP. Like it could be like a 50-50 or maybe like a 70%, 30%. You never know, so just do your best, because obviously you can't change your high school diploma. It's already way past you. Obviously the higher the grade, the better your chances are getting an acceptance, and that will enhance your chances into getting into any uni in Germany. So yeah, once again, just do your best. Anyways guys, that was it. See you next time.